when you asked me about when Madison Savile, how long have we been in business? And it just depends, right? Is
Right.
it incorporated? So I incorporated the company in 2017. But that was when I was doing, when I was still living in Seattle, working at
Uh-huh.
Microsoft. And, you'll like I have magazine tears just to get ideas for designs and stuff like that. And so if you come into my house and it's just a wall of just magazine tears.
Uh-huh.
And then fast forward, I would say 2022 was the official date of that we actually started selling to consumers.
Okay. And what was that like?
I mean, we all know COVID.
Yeah.
What happened in 2020? We were supposed to launch in March of 2020,
Oh,
which
wow.
is the same exact month that everything kind of blew up here in the United States with COVID, and so it was a little tough because, as you know, all those years from 2017 and
Hmm.
all the iterations we went through, the ups and downs, and preparing for this launch. It became not really a launch. It became kind of a soft launch for pre-orders
Uh-huh.
instead, because then at that time, all the factories shut down.
Yeah.
Your
And
whole supply
nobody was
chain shut
shipping.
down.
Yeah.
Everything shut down.
Yeah.
So everybody's just literally just sitting at home, starting to watch their Netflix and whatever else, right? And so it was really tough. And I know a lot of businesses and people had a really hard time,
Yeah.
as you know, a lot of businesses closed. So, yeah, fast forward like 2 years later, because every opportunity we got during that time period between 2020 and 2022, because that it didn't last for 2 weeks or 2
Hmm.
months. It lasted all those years.
Yep.
And living in LA, in a county that has the strictest kind of rules with COVID.
Hmm.
So we were closed for a long time. A lot of the businesses were closed for a long time. And so anytime that we had an opportunity, or the city or the county opened up again, there was a period
Hmm.
of time where they thought it was okay, we can open up again. No, just kidding. We're closing back down. Any opportunity we got, we tried to squeeze in what we needed to do to get this collection,
Hmm.
going. Which included like photo shoots, and that was interesting with masks and this and
So,
that.
so do you have like pictures of women in dresses with the mask or?
Oh yeah, I have a lot of behind the scenes of us and me, the models, my consultant that was helping me at the time,
Hmm.
all of us in masks trying to do this photo shoot and making sure we keep distance. It was just a whole thing.
Yeah.
COVID just added many more layers. You had to have a COVID compliance person on site
Uh-huh.
and sign offs and approve. It's just, yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people in the production world too,
Hmm.
especially here in LA, trying to film, yeah, same thing. Compliance
Wow.
person, compliance officer, lots of tests. So, yeah.
So how did that how did you stay motivated? Because as a new business owner about to launch, and then you have this thing that's beyond your control that affects your whole supply chain.
Yeah.
Um, did you have second guesses?
Other people had second guesses.
Yeah.
So I would have to say, nobody, you're wearing a blazer, I'm wearing a blazer, and at that time, because I mean, even after COVID, the consumer has shifted, consumer
Hmm.
behavior. Um, but even more so in 2020, a lot of people were questioning and asking me, uh, well, do you think people are going to wear blazers and suits anymore
Hmm.
after COVID? Like, and I said, you think about it and you think about history, right? That's why knowing history, studying history is important, is because, well, certain things have, like the Spanish flu, for
Yeah.
example, things like that happen, but it doesn't last forever. And so you're asking me this question right now as things are happening. Of course, nobody's going to buy it now, but we're not going to be in lockdown forever. And
Hmm.
so now, you know, the consumer behavior has shifted. Now more and more people are kind of going away from renting, because for
Hmm.
a moment in time, renting was like a big a big thing, a trending thing, right? Renting your clothes, all of that. But now it looks like the consumer is getting bored
Yeah.
and they're looking out to buying other clothes that actually are versatile and complement other things in
Hmm.
their wardrobe that they can use over and over again to create different outfits. And so it's not, people are asking me, and that's where, as an entrepreneur, you just have to have that knowing and what your
Uh-huh.
purpose is and what you're doing and what's driving you, because you're going to get these all the time.
Yeah.
And you either let it get to you or you're like, no, I know where this is going to go, so
Uh-huh.
we're just going to keep going.
Now, did you find that your experience at Microsoft helped you with that
Absolutely.
kind of line of thinking?
I think it's more of the thinking behind finance and being
Hmm.
in finance overall in general, having the business, finance, accounting background really helps. So completely opposite of, fashion, creative design, but in the foundation of things, it does really help, because then you analyze, you have more of an
Hmm.
analytical and logical and looking at the trends, and again, back to data and back to history. And you're like, okay, well, this is going to last X months or X years, or then we're going to get into inflation and then a recession and then
Hmm.
this and then, you're like, okay, so if you kind of know and you're expecting these, you can plan for them. So,
Right.
yeah. Hmm.
So how'd you get inspired to get in this business? Because I remember, just you talking about it and then seeing it go live, and then you're still starting the business as you're working, right? So what inspired you to go down this entrepreneurship path? Because,
Um,
in the corporate world, you would have found like tremendous success anyway.
oh yes, Tony, it's one of those where on this entrepreneur journey, uh, it depends on the day you ask me. No, there's lots of, there's never a straight line,
Yeah.
and yes, you are correct. If I stayed the corporate route, um, there would have been a different success story and
Hmm.
trajectory. Going into the entrepreneur route, every entrepreneur, and this is why I said it's important to have entrepreneur friends, because they
Hmm.
have a different mindset and they go through the same struggles. So you can help each other feel like this is normal. What you're
Yeah.
going through is normal. Me now, as an entrepreneur, talking to someone in corporate or even my own family, and they're like, oh, just quit. It's so hard. Da, da, da. You're like, just go back to corporate. Your life will be so much easier. And then you talk to other entrepreneurs, like, this is just your initiation into this
Yeah.
world. You'll get through it. It's fine. So, back to your question, for me, when I was at corporate, I knew I wasn't going to be there forever, because there was more of a calling to do something more.
Hmm.
I wanted, at that time, I don't know if you remember, but I did a lot of community service, volunteer work,
Yeah.
because I wanted to give back, because I wanted to make an impact. And for me, I wanted that to be part of kind of a legacy and an empire of giving back and impact. I wanted to create more of an impact.
Hmm.
And what does that mean? Like, I don't know. I had so many ideas, because I get these questions now from people,
Hmm.
asking me, how did you know what you wanted to do? How did you know that it was fashion? I didn't. Uh,
Hmm.
I had a lot of, I had two career coaches that helped me, two different methods. One was a neuroscience coach, very
Hmm.
scientific, a lot of data driven results. And then the other one was a spiritual coach. But they
Hmm.
both came to the same conclusion, excuse me, that my path is to be an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, great. But what does that mean? An entrepreneur in what? In food and beverage, and fashion and technology, because at that time my experience and background has always been finance tech,
Hmm.
working for a corporation that is technology. um, so eventually I got to fashion, because at one point in time, Tony, I almost went into the wine industry.
Really?
Yes. I
What
love
happened with that?
wine. Yeah, I love wine. Just the experience and everything around it, right? The lifestyle with wine and whatnot, I love. But then I did a job shadow with who now is like a mentor of mine, and he had his own vineyard and wine distribution and everything. And so he gave me behind the scenes, like, okay, maybe not so much. And I could say the same thing with fashion, to be honest. It's, you know, it's glamorous that from what people see, the runway and this and that, of course. But behind the scenes, it's very gritty. It's you're carrying rolls of fabric and, you know, all this like more physical labor and rolling racks downtown and all these things that people don't see. They only see the results
And
of
you're
it.
doing that,
And
right?
I'm doing it.
You're doing it. Yeah.
But the purpose is I always loved blazers. I love a suit. I love GQ. I love James Bond. And for me, I wanted to bring that to women. A blazer presents is psychologically, the structure gives you the confidence and changes your mood when you wear it. So it represents, you know, empowering the person and helping them to step into their power and increasing their confidence. But with that Madison Savile, which is why I named it Madison Savile. Savile means is for Savile Row. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, exactly. I want to bring that to women. And Madison actually means gift of God and warrior. So it's creating all the warriors of the world and reminding everyone of their God-given gift, because we tend to forget what that is. We get distracted and we start comparing each other, and social media, you know, is a highlight reel. So it is part of Madison Savile's purpose is to be on the journey with the woman and to provide her an armor, such as our blazers, to inspire her and motivate her. So everything that we do with our blazer designs and our company and our pillars of Madison Savile is for that. So with the blazer, every blazer has words of affirmation in it. And so our first collection is unstoppable and fierce. So that's lined on the inside. And then every new collection will have new words of affirmation. And so we're working on fall, winter collection this year. So we just put out a vote or a poll to everyone of what the next words will be, because we want our community to participate in that. And so it was very unanimous for what the next words of affirmation will be in the new collection of Madison Savile blazers.
That's interesting that you have words of affirmation, because on my custom suits, I have words of affirmation.
Oh, yeah, that you probably are yours, right? That you tell them to put in
I
there.
put like do great things and
See?
whatnot.
See?
And you're right, it's empowering, right? So, you know, I was pretty lackadaisical with my dress during the pandemic. And then I'm like, you know, I need to get back to wearing a suit.
I think everybody was. Everybody was in athleisure and, you know, sweaters and hoodies. And I mean, you're not going anywhere. So I think for us, it was a good time too, because of how we made the blazers. For me, comfort is very important. And working in corporate for so many years, I couldn't find blazers that fit well where I couldn't wait to take them off. It was very restricting. Because for women, men's blazers are a little looser, but women, every woman's body is different. And so we wanted to make sure that it's tailored enough, but not too tight. But because it's also ready to wear and not custom made, it's trying to find the perfect balance where it would work for a majority of the women, right? And that was the challenge. But I have to say we definitely achieved that challenge, because a lot of my customers have commented that it feels like a sweater on. Like, this is the first blazer I didn't have to tailor, or those with broad shoulders now can wear a blazer. So very, very good and positive feedback.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Now, there's companies out there like J. Hilburn for men. have you
Hmm.
thought of incorporating kind of that model where you have other women that you empower to go out there and find women that want to do like a custom wardrobe?
Yeah,
Because the technology is there,
yes.
it just might cost a little more, right?
Yes, exactly. I think I have definitely thought about that. A lot of different avenues, right? Of like,
Hmm.
how can we expand Madison Savile? And I think it's one step at a time. We launched with direct to consumer, and now we're actually the next phase is wholesale.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Going into trying to go into more stores.
Hmm.
And so that's what we're working on for 2024 is the wholesale piece and building out this next collection. Because what I initially launched was a smaller collection to test the market,
Hmm.
to get that feedback, right? So it's just a limited number of styles of blazers and pants. But
Yeah.
now the next collection is going to be an 11-piece collection. So much bigger, created for buyers
Uh-huh.
and wholesale. So that would be the next step, and then the phase after that would to then start incorporating more of like, okay, custom and
Yeah.
technology. And because me coming from tech and
Uh-huh.
then going into fashion, years ago to start Madison Savile, it was just so archaic to me or outdated,
Really?
behind the scenes, because it's very old school still, behind the scenes.
Uh-huh.
But now over time, over the years, it's the digital transformation of fashion
Hmm.
as people are observing more and more. So that's exciting coming from the tech
Yeah.
background.
So are you finding that some of that sourcing is coming back for like nearshoring? I mean, where are you getting your supplies and whatnot with and how did COVID change your decision on how to source materials?
Well, it was definitely really tough. It was really tough to do a lot of things in COVID because, as you know, it it really made a lot of things costly when
Hmm.
it comes to shipping, right? And supplies, everything went up because of COVID constraints. Um, and at that time, for me, like I said, it was just everything was focused on having some kind of stretch,
Hmm.
comfort, and the hand or the feel of the fabric. And so it took a long time to find the right fabric.
Hmm.
And everything that you see in this collection was sourced by me, which
Wow.
is, when you think of it as a blazer, well, at least our blazers are 50 to 70 pieces each.
Uh-huh.
And so, the fabric, the buttons, the lining, the stitching, the everything
Uh-huh.
was sourced by me. And so it was kind of desegregated because it's a supplier for each thing and
Hmm.
not just like one supplier. I mean, that would have been nice. So you then
Yeah.
you would find me going from place to place all over downtown LA, or, at trade shows, talking to different suppliers to make it to create this blazer collection. And so needless to say, it took a long time.
Uh-huh.
Um, and our fabric in this first collection is from Japan, because their fabric is absolutely amazing in
Hmm.
terms of luxury, feel, stretch, quality, which is why we ended up going with Japanese fabric. But of course, that also leads to higher shipping costs because it is
Right.
coming from Japan. um, Now with this new collection, because it's an 11-piece collection, I actually brought on um, a new team.
Hmm.
So to help me, because there was no way that me, myself, and I can
Yeah.
build out an 11-piece collection and get ready for wholesale and buyers without a team helping me. And so
Uh-huh.
I brought on a new team in New York that have an amazing background and experience. One of one of the ladies on the team is a certified fashion designer, or
Hmm.
she has that award. She's been in the industry for 20 years. So it's great to finally work, with someone and just kind of back and forth,
Right.
exchange ideas, and then she'll just draw it real time for me. the sketches in terms of bringing my vision to life.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where I find the fun, like you have now a team that can bring your vision to life.
Yeah.
Because before, and this is what every entrepreneur has to go through anyways,
Mm-hmm.
is the nitty gritty. You can't take the shortcuts. You're going to have to do all the non-fun, right? Things in the beginning because of budget, because of this and that. And fashion is a very capital intensive industry.
And labor intensive as well.
Labor intensive, everything. So going back to what we were talking about before, like behind the scenes is not glamorous. And that's why when it comes to, if you compare about me and wine before, where I almost went to the wine industry, it wasn't glamorous either, but it didn't speak to me in terms of purpose.
Right.
And Madison,
you didn't see yourself on a farm or in a vineyard.
I mean, I see myself drinking, but
you'd be in overalls, coveralls.
But for me, it's more of like, with Madison Savile, it is the purpose, right? What's driving? Because you always hear this too. And especially if you have investors or you go to pitching events or whatnot, they always ask what your purpose is, because they also know that this is hard. And you're going to run into challenging times and hard times, and what's going to pull you through. It's like, if it's very money focused only, because of course we're all in to make money, but if that's the only thing, it's not going to help you pull through. You have to know and remind yourself what your purpose is and why you're doing this in the first place, to get you through those days. And there's a lot of those days.
Yeah, because I mean, they don't want to put money into a venture where the leader is just going to give up at the first sight of trouble.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So they want to see how you've handled your personal downturns, if you will.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, it's like it's climbing a mountain. It's like, can you get to the top? Because it is hard. It's a hard hike.
So when did you decide to call it quits with your corporate job? And really dive 100% in, because you were doing this part-time when you first started, right?
Well, I was doing this part-time. So it's an interesting journey, because I quit being a full-time employee 7 years ago, and then went into Madison Savile full-time to
Mm-hmm.
spend a lot of that time designing and looking for fabric and sourcing and so many iterations, right, of fittings and patterns and all of this, to get to launch. Then COVID hit, and I was blessed enough to be able, because of my background, go back into consulting during that time, because I'm bootstrapping my company. And so it's like, okay, well, if we can't launch, you're not going to make any money. So what are you going to do now?
Yeah.
So I went back to consulting, and COVID really drove the remote work, work from home. And I worked from home consulting, not as a full-time, as a consultant, as a contractor. And I have been able to do that over the last few years, kind of like dip in and out. So not full-time employee. Microsoft did ask me to come back full-time, and I love the team there and the people there. And I told them, just transparent, I'm like, I'm gonna leave you again, so don't feel right taking a full-time position and be like, okay, I'm out again. So instead I went the other route and became their vendor, like a contractor on the other side. And I work for other clients and customers now on the consulting side, but it is the in and out. And like I said, it's never a straight line or journey as an entrepreneur, because you don't know like how many entrepreneurs, and it's just real talk, right? I don't want to paint a picture for everyone who's like, oh, it's just wonderful and so easy and the money just flows. And especially in this economy right now, it's up and down and you never know. And so a lot of like me and other entrepreneur friends, we all have something, that we have, just to, one, keep consistent income as you build your company, because it's not going to be, some companies have a great success story right off the
Hmm.
bat.
Yeah.
Not all. And so it's like you have to just keep chipping away, and that's the consistency and the discipline that you hear about, that you just have to keep going,
Hmm.
because you have that vision, because you have that purpose. So you just have to find a solution to keep going. And whatever that is different for everyone.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And recently you've been featured in several like high profile publications. How did that make you feel
Uh,
when you got that opportunity?
well, it's wonderful.
Yeah.
It feels unreal. Um, you kind of go through this. Last year, 2023.
Hmm.
Uh, I am an A type, so that means I tend to be very, controlling and like planner, and like this has to happen at this time, and all these things. And I had to learn to step back and trust. All
Hmm.
right, step back and not control everything and make everything happen when it's not supposed to happen at that time. It's also timing. And so at a moment in time, I'm like, because in the beginning I was really pushing for PR. I was really pushing for, who should I hire for all, and in the end, Tony, I just didn't. I didn't hire anybody
Hmm.
for PR. I just said, hey, I will respond to the opportunities that are coming to me,
Hmm.
meaning whether they're right for me or not. And that's where your instinct, your intuition, your gut feelings come in.
Hmm.
And so I had an opportunity to stock on an international like stockist or website. It's called Wolf
Hmm.
and Badger, and they allow international exposure for me, where I can ship now my product, blazers and suits, anywhere in the world.
Hmm.
And and they're a London headquartered brand, but they have stores in London, New York, and LA. So being on their website then exposed me to their PR. So British
Uh-huh.
Vogue, British Vanity Fair, they came to me.
Uh-huh.
So I didn't have to reach out
Yeah.
full circle, just trying so hard in the beginning. And then I just thought, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to respond to the opportunities that are coming to me, and not trying to like go get. I mean,
Force it.
I'm
Yeah.
not saying that entrepreneurs shouldn't try. I'm just saying that it gets to a point where you're trying too hard,
Hmm.
and you're making things happen before they should happen, or before the timing is right, and things like that. And you just kind of have to know that balance. And so with that was my lesson learned, because
Yeah.
I did have a friend that said, see.
Big shout out and a huge thank you to Zekin for making this happen. They have an amazing platform. Check out their website, zekin.com, zeacon.com.
See what happens when you just kind of just take a step back, Diana.
So just let the world do its thing, right?
Yes,
But
yes.
still keeping
Momentum.
the output,
Yep,
right?
exactly. It's
Yeah.
it's not it's not sitting on your couch waiting for things to happen, right? It's kind of that story or that joke where it's like, oh, well, you're praying to win the lottery, except you didn't go buy a lottery ticket.
Yeah.
So how do you expect to win the lottery?
Right. If you don't buy the ticket.
Yeah.
So did you find that moving down to LA was a big transformation for you in growth of the business?
Absolutely. 100%. I
And is that why you moved? I mean,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
there's a couple things, but that's the main reason.
yeah.
I was born here, but then, as you know, I lived and grew up in Seattle for over 30 years. I never got used to the weather, so that was another thing. But because I did start Madison Savile in Seattle,
Mhm.
um, but when it comes to resources in fashion, suppliers, like consultants, manufacturers, there just wasn't enough in Seattle for what I needed.
Mm.
Um, and the network. And for me, I felt that I got to a place in Seattle where I wasn't growing anymore, and I
Mhm.
needed to go somewhere that was going to push me past my limit, like my comfort zone. Um, and it's choosing the right city for whatever you're doing, right? Whatever
Yeah.
industry. that could have been New York, but you know, I love California, so I'm starting off here. Would love to be bi-coastal one day. Uh,
New
so
York, LA.
being in LA has definitely like 10x in terms of progress, momentum, people, resources, the network. It is amazing the difference. The other thing is being in a place that is creative. Because if you were to go to a coffee shop in Seattle, a lot of the conversation, because it is a very tech-based, corporate-based city, right? You have your Amazon, your Microsoft, Google, Costco, Nordstrom, all of that there, Starbucks, you name it. And in the coffee shop, you hear that, you know, what kind of AI are you looking at? What technology do you have embedded in your blah, blah, blah? Here, you sit in a coffee shop and you're like, hey, so I just, I have this script that I'm writing for this new TV series, or like, I just launched my new brand and collection. You know, it's very different energy.
And more like-minded people in your space of entrepreneurship.
Exactly. That people just understand and get. And then also the support that you get from one another. In terms of, there's just so many entrepreneurs in various industries here besides tech.
Right.
Yeah.
So how did you break into that community? Was there like an LA freeze or?
No, for me, it was especially after COVID, because we got so used to being isolated, right? And being at home and not really talking to anybody. And so it was just like really tough to force myself to get out there. And as an adult moving to a different city, even though I was born here, it's the same thing because I grew up in Seattle. And moving here as an adult, you don't have any friends. And then COVID hits, makes it worse. So because we moved here the end of 2019. And then COVID hit 2020.
Yeah.
So really, I didn't really meet a ton of people. And like, we tried, but you know, in COVID is a little awkward. You got your mask on and this and that, and people,
you didn't have like
not
bubble
in my
friends.
bubble, you know, all of that. And so it makes it very challenging to meet and make friends. And so I honestly, from 2020 to 2022, like didn't really meet a ton of people. And I told myself 2022 was when things really started opening up here in LA. And I told myself that I was going to find as many network organizations, things like that, so that I can join or go to events. And I'll tell you a story where my first networking event out of COVID was at the Waldorf Astoria in Beverly Hills. And it was a kind of like a fashion get together. I went by myself because I didn't have anybody to go with me. And I wore my tuxedo, you know, wearing your own product. And it was just, I mean, a lot of people were like, I mean, that's very intimidating. You went by yourself. I wouldn't even have gone.
Yeah.
But that's the part of the work that people don't understand. Like, networking is a lot of work. And when you have a business like this, it's part of your job to do that.
Yeah.
A lot of my sales, a lot of my customers are because I go out there and they meet me as the founder and the designer, and then they buy. And so in that first event, because I felt like I was such a newbie, you know, I asked all these people because it was a Thursday and everybody was like, oh, it was my first event for them that day. And they're like, oh, I have 2 other events to go to. So I started asking people, like, how do you know about these events, or how do you get involved in these events and this and that? And they're like, oh, you know, like typically in LA, it's usually Wednesdays and Thursdays where all the events happen. And, you know, you just know, or you meet people and they invite you. I'm like, okay. And so it was kind of slow going, right. At first. And let me tell you, Tony, now I'm the chair of the Women's Business Network of the Beverly Hills Chamber. And I am now on the opposite end where I can't go to all of these events.
Yeah. You're like, I can't go to this one.
Now I have to pick and choose which one I have time to go to because it's the opposite. It's more, it's a lot of events now.
And that was very intentional of you to go out there
Yes.
and making an effort, because if that wasn't the case, then you just be,
Yep. I
in
mean,
yours.
I have a lot of people asking me, like, how do you know all these people? Because in the end, it becomes a very small world.
Hmm.
You end up seeing the same people at the same networking event, and even up and down California, San Francisco, LA, you name it. And a lot of my friends are like, how do you know all these people? And I said, well, it's because I pushed myself to go to all these networking events
And you took an interest in learning about those people.
and learn. And that is key
Yeah.
because it's leaning in. You have
Hmm.
to be interested
Yeah.
in that person and what they're saying, because then they have that connection with you. And
Hmm.
it's not the fight to be interesting. Like, I have to be interesting, so I need to, make sure I say everything about me that's interesting. It's more of, most of the time, Tony, people just want to be heard and
Yeah.
know that, somebody's listening to them and interested in them. So you really have to be, lear- wanting to learn about the person and interested in that person, to have that connection. And not everyone is for you, right?
Hmm.
You meet all
Yeah.
kinds of people, and you just have to know that too. Because for me, I'm very, it's networking, business, and then and there are days or times that you'll have friendships, that result out of these connections. And I do.
Hmm.
I have like one. Now my one of my best friends is because I met her at a women's, like, women in business networking event way in the beginning, and over
Hmm.
time, we've just helped each other with our business. And like I said, those challenging moments where you're like, okay, can't do this anymore, and you're like, nope, you
Nope.
can,
Yeah.
just probably not today.
It's a
So
it's a lot of work, right? Entrepreneurship's a lot of work, and
I have always said entrepreneurship and relationships will bring out a lot of things in you that you would have to work with, or not work with, but improve on all your doubts and
hmm,
insecurities, and things that you've hidden in the closet or
yeah.
you've just swept under the rug, because it challenges you in every way, you know
Hmm.
your mindset, your emotions, your faith, your, like, everything.
Yeah. And especially as a business owner too, you have other people depending on you,
Yep,
right?
exactly.
So now that impact is not just on yourself, it's the person that you've hired that is relying on you to feed their family.
Well, exactly. And
Yeah.
your it's decision fatigue. So you get to a place where I get to a place where now I'm like, I don't care what we have for dinner. I just don't want to make a decision. It's funny because then you think about the Mark Zuckerbergs or people of the world where they just have one outfit every day. It's
Yeah.
really simple. It's because it's one less decision to make.
Yeah.
Because as a business owner, entrepreneur, you make all the decisions.
Uh-huh.
Everybody comes to you for a decision or an approval or this or that. And at the end of the day, you're just like, decision fatigue.
Yeah. So have you decided on that path of, I'm just gonna wear this color blazer, have 10 of them, and that's it?
Honestly, having a women's blazers and suits company has been amazing because, yes, I mean, I created something that I saw a need for and that I'm a
Hmm.
customer myself. And so with my blazers, I have them and I wear them more often than I actually think about,
Uh-huh.
because it's just so easy, right? You have a blazer, you change your top or different pants, and it's a different outfit.
Yeah.
Don't have to think about it. For our podcast here, I'm like, okay, well, I'm just gonna throw on a blazer and this cute top, and I'm good to go.
But I know we're pressed for time. If you could give, 5 ideas for the aspiring entrepreneur, what would they be?
Well, one, it's never too late.
Hmm.
I get that a lot from people. I'm gonna be 40 in 5 months here, and you know,
Happy early birthday.
thank you. And people always ask, like, I have this, I have that, it's too late, I'm too old, I'm whatever. And I'm like, it's never too late. You have,
Mhm.
again, if you look back in history, all the successful people that you know about now, they actually didn't become successful or known, or they didn't start doing what they're known for now until they were in their 50s or in their
Yeah.
60s, or so it's like, one, it's never too late because you just stopped yourself before you even tried.
Mhm.
Second, try. Like, start leaning into what your interests could be, because we then get so bogged down by real life, like not
Mhm.
real life, but life in general, right?
Yeah.
The things we have to do, adulting, and we don't have time. And so it doesn't mean that you have to make this big jump, like, oh my gosh, then I have to, because you start overwhelming yourself, like, oh,
Mhm.
I just don't have time. So you don't do it. It's little things. If you're interested in art, maybe take an art class, maybe start sketching. I don't know,
Mhm.
buy paint by numbers. Who knows, right?
Yeah.
It's very simple, but it's to allow yourself to try. And like that also goes with the third thing is creating the time,
Mhm.
so you can have that, like, the time to have space and stillness for you to actually feel
Mhm.
what you want to do, how you're feeling, because we just go go go. I'm really bad at this. I'm sharing this, but it's something that I have to practice uh,
Mhm.
a lot. And it's sitting in that stillness and going, okay, what do I want to do? Or what do I need in terms of my mental health, my
Mhm.
physical health, all of that, because that is all very important. Um, the fourth is life is short.
Yeah.
It's all, this all goes together.
Mhm.
Um, Life is short. And I always say that I don't want to die asking what if,
Mhm. Yeah.
you know? So it's like you got to try. So this goes back to all the other things I said before. It's it's trying. It's life is too short. You got to start doing something where you're like, you look back and you're not regretting that I
Mhm.
didn't try. Because especially with COVID and everything, we actually start we we observe that you just don't know when your
Mhm.
time on this earth is
Yeah, it
done.
changed a lot of people's paths,
Yeah,
because now
exactly.
you had more time to think. You're not in traffic driving to your job, so that's an extra
Yeah,
hour or half an hour that you're just like, am I really enjoying this?
yeah, yeah. And with that, it's have fun.
Yeah.
Because I say that, and that's a reminder for myself for 2024 is to have fun, because you're just so, like, again, it's the analogy of a hike that I always give, is on this entrepreneur journey, you're just so focused
Mhm.
on your path, right? You're looking down so you're
Yeah.
not tripping and you're not falling, but then you forget to stop and look up and see how far you've gone, for
Mhm.
one,
Yeah.
and then take in the beauty around you. You're like, oh my goodness, this is great. This is beautiful. You don't have to wait to get to the top to stop and take in the view.
Yeah. I think Chow said that too on the podcast, is enjoying those little wins, right?
Yeah.
Celebrating the little wins.
And we have to remind each other that too, because Chow, so Chow and I, and thank you for that
Yeah.
connection. She's wonderful. Like, we had dinner with our spouses in Seattle, and I'm going to do a pop up with her here in February, here pretty
Uh-huh.
soon. But also, another entrepreneur in fashion, a woman in fashion, you know, um, Vietnamese woman in
Yeah.
fashion
Yeah.
too.
I was just
And
thinking about
so
that today. I'm like,
it's just like, thank you for that. And it is, helping each other out, right? Supporting each other and wanting the other person to succeed.
Mhm.
So it's been wonderful. So thank you for that connection.
Yeah. Yeah. Of course.
Yeah.
So, what are you doing for fun now for 2024? Where three things planned for the fun?
Well, for me, I love traveling,
Mhm.
and I love experiences. So I am trying to plan more. For me, it's easier if I just plan trips and experiences ahead of time. So
Mhm.
then I can just focus on working and then have
Yeah.
something to look forward to. So that's what I'm doing this year. It's
Yeah.
just more experiences, more traveling, and then also being more present with friends
Hmm.
and family. That was one thing where you know, my mind is racing all the time. I have things, that you
Hmm.
think about, you got to do. Oh, I forgot to respond to this person, this and that, blah, blah, blah. And then you are not present,
Yeah.
with whoever you're spending time with. And that is actually in my mind when you think about it, it's kind of pointless. Like, then why are you spending time with them if you're not even
Yeah.
there?
I deal with the same issue.
I know that's why it's tough. I'm telling you all these things that I
Right.
practice myself. Nobody's
Yeah,
perfect.
it's tough because you're thinking about this and you're supposed to be here, but you're only physically there.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
I'm really, especially when you have a partner,
Hmm.
my husband, I feel bad because half the time I am working. I work 24/7. He will
Yeah.
tell you that I work 24/7. And it's like making time um for the people you love too, because ultimately they are the people that support you.
Yeah.
And it's priceless with the people you love, your family and your friends. Hmm.
Yeah. No, I mean, same here with the wife.
Well, especially, you have kids too, so
Yeah.
your priorities shift.
So like just throw the football to to
Yeah.
and then he's not standing there anymore.
You're like, "Oh." You're like, "Dad, it was like 5 minutes ago."
Uh, well, thanks for
Well,
coming on the show. Yeah.
no, thank you for having me. This has been
Yeah.
fun. It was great to see you again and chat and catch up. So I appreciate the time and having me as a guest.
Yeah. Well, next time you come up, hit me up, and well, I'll be down in LA with the family here pretty soon.
Oh, Disneyland?
No, we did Disneyland last year.
Oh,
Legoland.
Legoland. Okay. Yeah, I'll definitely let you know.
Okay.
All
Well,
right.
hey, great to see you.
Great to see you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thank you for tuning into the show. If you found value in what our guests shared and what we share on the show, please feel free to share with your friends and family. We'd love to see you back here. Thank you again. And you can find us on pretty much every social media channel, YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify as well. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Step into the unscripted arena.